The dead star hung above like the eye of a god gone blind, casting no warmth, no light, only the memory of once having mattered. Around it drifted the broken husk of the Zalari Observatory, a half-collapsed ring of crystalline spires and shattered domes orbiting a corpse of fire. The great minds that once filled these halls had long since vanished into history, their bones powdered into the cold dust of centuries. All that remained now was silence, and the last archivist High Overseer Calrek strode across the cracked marble of the main chamber, boots thudding with the weight of war. His armored frame gleamed in the dull orange glow of his escort drones, and the cloak of his rank trailed behind like a banner of conquest. He stood tall, taller than most Drahkon, arms crossed over his chest in practiced contempt, his scaled skin ridged with ceremonial scars. Before him, seated on a throne of decayed synthwood and spiderwebbed crystal, was Archivist Velaris. Eyes were old and pale-clouded, not with blindness, but the burden of memory. His breathing was shallow, mechanical. Thin wires ran from his back into the throne, feeding it fragments of knowledge too ancient to be born alone. When he spoke, his voice trembled like the last ember of a dying fire. "You've come." "For?" "Terra." Calrek nodded once. "The maps we found in the ruins of Solantar. They point to a system, Sol, third planet, marked with flame and warning. Your kind erased it from all modern archives." "Why?" Velari closed his eyes. "Because silence was safer." Calrek sneered. "Your fear is not our concern. The Supremacy devours fear." "You misunderstand," Velari rasped. "It was not fear for ourselves." The air in the chamber shifted. A low hum began to vibrate through the ancient crystal. Calrek's escort drones flickered with interference, recalibrating. Velari opened his eyes again, now glowing faintly from within. The stars screamed when Terra slept. Their sleep was not peace. It was exile, self-imposed. They buried their past and fled to forget what they were. We heard them before the silence. We listened through the burn of empires. And we feared not for ourselves, but for the next fool who would knock. Calrek laughed, sharp and cold. "You speak of ghosts as though they wear armor. My fleet has raised 10 civilizations in this cycle alone. We've cracked planetary shields with a thought. No creature clinging to a blue rock can frighten the Supremacy." "The warning," Velari said, his voice barely more than a whisper, "was not meant to frighten. It was a plea." Something deep in the chamber shifted. A hidden panel behind Velari's throne slid open, revealing a dormant beacon glowing now, reacting violently to the name spoken aloud. Calrek took a step back as a surge of energy lanced into the room, filling it with pulsing symbols, none of which matched any modern lexicon. Across the galaxy, ancient devices blinked to life in forgotten corners of space. Velari exhaled and slumped forward, the cables withdrawing from his spine with a hiss. His heart stopped as the beacon began to pulse, sending a signal into the void, a final message. Calrek stood in stunned silence, his eyes still on the beacon, which now radiated warnings in 1,000 dialects. "Do not wake Terra." "Do not wake what?" Dreams and silence. A whisper crossed his mind, a phrase not his own. "They remember," Calrek snarled. "Assemble the fleet. Chart the system. I want boots on that world before the next cycle." He turned away, ignoring the flickering lights, trembling ruins, and the dying weight of history bearing down on him. He should have listened, but the galaxy would learn the hard way. Beneath the gentle cradle of Earth's atmosphere, the world moved as it always had, unaware. Seas rolled with slow majesty, winds carved ancient canyons, and cities pulsed with life and noise as if nothing in the stars had stirred. But above, beyond the limits of what most minds could fathom, something old had heard its name whispered, and it was waking in a chamber buried beneath Antarctica's Ross ice shelf, a vault sealed for over 10,000 years stirred with mechanical breath. Machines older than Earth's written languages clicked into motion, their surfaces etched with unreadable glyphs, humming not with electricity but with memory. Lights flickered on one by one, then turned red. Protocol Genesis, breach confirmed. Thousands of kilometers away, in the orbital ring known only to 10 people on Earth, Commander Elena Vos sat in silence. The report had just arrived from the Martian listening post in Anomaly beyond Neptune. She had dismissed other warnings in her career: solar flares, asteroid drifts, even a rogue AI that tried to impersonate Jupiter. But this one chilled her, not because of the signal, but because of what it matched. The frequency pattern was identical to a deep code line embedded in Earth's own forgotten warning beacons. Humanity had hidden in distant voids under false flags, coded to appear alien. And now, one of them had activated. "Commander," Lieutenant Raffi called from the primary station, his voice tight. "We have movement at the edge of the system. 17 contacts. No known signature. All ... massive." "Massive?" Elena repeated, already rising. "Ma'am, one of them is 5 kilometers in length." The room fell silent. Elena stared at the tactical readout, watching as 17 red marks moved with synchronized, predatory precision. "We have 6 minutes until visual confirmation via Mars relay." Elena didn't wait. She opened a secured Channel 1 reserved only for global crises. President Hawley. It started. President Darius Hawley at that moment was standing in the World Unity Council chamber in Geneva, mid-sentence about global clean energy when the alert flashed. On his retinal display, his voice paused. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to step out." He left the room without further explanation, security already moving before him like a silent tide. Down below the Parliament halls, where few had ever stepped, doors opened for Hawley without clearance prompts. He entered a silent, dark room. Dr. Malik Aren was already there, standing before an ancient star map that had just updated itself without input. "They're here," Malik said quietly. "Just like the warnings predicted." "Where?" Hawley asked. "Neptune's shadow, hiding behind the gas trail." "They've known we'd watch the main axis." "And Earth's defenses?" Malik hesitated. "They're ready, but..." Hawley asked. "If we activate them, we'll never be able to pretend again." That silence hung heavy. "We've spent centuries hiding behind soft data," Malik continued. "Clunky satellites, fake launch records, open civilian frequencies. But if we show them what we are, the galaxy will never see us the same again." "They already don't," Hawley said. "They're here to find out who we really are." Meanwhile, aboard the Drahkon flagship Terra Reborn, Admiral Sorvek was pleased. Primitive system. 7 planets, 1 gas ring. 3rd planet lush with biosignatures. He studied Earth's energy signatures. They emit in open spectrum, crude, inefficient, barely beyond their own moon. Exactly as predicted. One of his tactical officers hissed in amusement. "We'll have them on their knees in days. This will be our easiest victory since Fander." But Sorvek didn't share the laughter. He'd seen something else. A signal embedded in the background radiation. A whisper hidden beneath the planetary missions. It said, "We see you." He turned toward his sensor chief. "Is this a signal from Earth?" "No, sir," the technician said. "It's coming from Mars." Sorvek frowned. "They have colonies?" "Yes, sir." "Minimal presence. A few domes. No threat. Send a ship. I want it leveled. Leave nothing standing." As the Drahkon ship broke off and approached the red planet, 2 human colonists watched helplessly from a ridge. Juno Lee and Derek Mason. Jesus Christ. Derek muttered, pulling out a scope. That thing is a damn city with engines. We have to warn Earth, Juno said. There's no time. There's always time. They sprinted across the ridge to the relay beacon, a battered transmitter hidden in the rocks like a forgotten relic. Juno slammed the code in by memory, not modern code. Old code. Directive Omega. Not used in 400 years. The beacon screamed into the stars. Back in the depths of Antarctica, the vault responded. Pillars of metal rose from the ice. Satellite arrays long thought to be geological anomalies rotated to face the stars. Beneath the Pacific, dormant monoliths shed their camouflage dot in lunar orbit. Something truly ancient opened its eyes hidden beneath the gray regolith of a crater. No one had ever explored Earth. The sleeping giant had taken its first breath, and it had not forgotten how to roar. The skies above Earth did not shatter. They unfolded all over the world, from the ice fields of Greenland to the jungles of the Congo, from the seafloors of the Mariana Trench to the deserts of Mongolia. Structures long thought to be natural. Formations erupted from beneath the surface like ancient titans rising from slumber. Mountain peaks split down the center to reveal glowing monoliths. Fault lines cracked open not with seismic violence, but precision like keys turning locks. The world groaned, then hummed. In orbit, thousands of eyes, human and alien, watched. With growing dread as Earth began to change, from deep beneath the Pacific, a ripple moved outward. Not water, not energy, but space itself bending, curling, folding in on its axis. And from the fold rose the first of them, silent, slow, monstrous. Dreadnought Prometheus. It rose like a leviathan sculpted from obsidian and dark light, 10 kilometers. Of silent death, bristling with weapons that made no sound. Its hull shimmered as if it existed in more than one dimension. Every sensor in the Drahkon fleet screamed warnings, but gave no answers. A second followed, then a third, then 20 more. They rose from land, sea, and void vessels built not for war, but for ending it. Ships from another age when humans did not ask if they should win, only how thoroughly. Commander Elena Vaz stood on the command deck of the orbital fortress Helios Crown, her face lit by the rising signal profiles of Earth's awakening armada. Prometheus is online, her XO reported. So is Judgment, Gauntlet, Tempest. Icarus is en route from Jupiter Station, Elena nodded. Authorization code, Sol Vale 0. Transfer command protocols to Central Nexus. All vessels responding, standing by. Across space, the Drahkon fleet was no longer trying to analyze. They were trying to run. Admiral Sorvek watched in horror as his command interface failed to display safe vectors. Each potential jump route ended in red. Space itself was betraying them. Reverse full power. He barked. Target the planets. Planetary defense systems. Overwhelm them before they reach us. But before his command could even be executed, Earth responded. From Prometheus came a pulse. Invisible, but undeniable. And with it, the rules changed. The first Drahkon destroyer, Blood Rapture, twisted violently. It did not explode. It did not fragment. It simply collapsed. Shrunk into a pinpoint of darkness that vanished into nothing. Its crew never screamed. There was no time. Then came the counteroffensive. From Earth's dreadnoughts. Emerged weapons no civilization in the known galaxy had ever recorded. Vessels of logic-breaking design, shaped not by metallurgy but intention. Each fired a single
bolt, so small, so elegant.
But wherever those bolts struck, time stuttered. Ships caught in the wake decayed in moments, their hulls rusting away across millennia in the blink of an eye. Others detonated in perfectly contained spheres of gravity inversion, folding themselves inward into annihilation. But perhaps most terrifying of all, some Drahkon vessels were not destroyed. They were rewritten. Sorvak watched as the Ash Reaper, his second-in-command's flagship, suddenly changed configuration. Its weapons melted away. Its black hull transformed to glistening silver. I screamed before falling silent, replaced by a calm voice that spoke. Terran Standard. It now. Served Earth. You're hijacking our warships, Sorvak breathed, his voice cracking. Back on Helios Crown, Elena Vos turned to Kai Thorne, who stood silently beside her. Is the veil broken? She asked. Kai didn't answer. Instead, he activated a direct transmission across all frequencies. To the galaxy. To the peoples of the stars, he said, his voice calm, deliberate. This is Earth. This is Terra. You were warned. Not by us, but by those who remembered. We are not invaders. We are not conquerors. We are guardians of our own silence. He paused. But you came with fire. And you awoke something that does not forgive. On the Drahkon capital world, billions watched as their proud war fleet vanished in silence. The transmission was crystal clear, unjammable, untraceable. Every citizen, every child, every leader watched as a Terran fleet turned one of the most feared armadas in history to dust. Sorvak, gasping, now kneeled on the floor of his bridge. He couldn't think. Couldn't process. His comms officer turned to him. We just lost contact with Home Command, sir. All long-range comms jammed. At the quantum level. They're coming, Sorvak whispered. Then a shape appeared on the main view screen. Woman, human, dressed in armor that shimmered like starlight. Her voice was steel. Admiral Sorvak of the Drahkon Supremacy. You will surrender your fleet. You will disable your remaining systems. If you do not comply in the next 30 seconds, you will no longer exist. This is your only warning. Sorvak looked up into those eyes and saw nothing but truth. No. He whispered, you were supposed to be extinct. The progenitors died. The woman tilted her head slightly. We never died, she said. We simply chose not to be gods anymore. 30 seconds passed. Sorvak didn't answer, and the void swallowed them whole. The trap did not spring like a snare. It closed like the jaws of something ancient and patient, something that had hunted before and was never fooled by noise. Admiral Sorvak's warfleet, pride of the Drahkon Supremacy, now hung in the void, between Mars and Earth, but it was not alone. Around them, space bent in unnatural ways. Stars blinked in patterns no natural mind could interpret. Shadows moved where no light should fall. And the Earth, that simple blue marble, stared back like an unblinking eye. He turned sharply to his sensor chief. What's causing the distortions? Unknown. Admiral, the officer croaked. Our scans can't resolve any coordinates within the inner system. Space is folding layers of false signals, real-time duplications, gravimetric eddies. It's like reality itself is lying to us. Then, burn it clean, Sorvak growled. Sweep fire pattern Fate 9. Cleanse everything. Yes, Admiral. But before the order could be carried out, everything stopped. No explosion. No visual attack. Just stillness. Across all 17 Drahkon ships, engines froze. Weapons powered down. Lights flickered. Internal gravity inverted, then corrected. AI networks blinked. For 1 second, even the hum of power disappeared. On the Terra Reborn, Sorvak roared as he was thrown against his command chair. What happened? Some kind of field temporal dilation, electronic stasis, we don't know. And then, it came. A voice. It did not arrive over any known frequency. It did not translate through linguistic software. It spoke directly into consciousness. You were warned. Everyone on the bridge froze. You were warned before fire, before form, before language. And you have touched the sleeping mind of Terra. Sorvik shouted. Who speaks? Identify yourself. The voice did not answer. It simply echoed again, this time deeper, sharper, older. You have stolen time. On Earth, deep beneath Mount Elbert in North America, President Hollis stood inside. A facility never mentioned in any document, map, or datenet. Before him floated a sphere-polished silver cold. The progenitor core, once dormant. Now alive. It spun slowly, displaying thousands of alien symbols across its surface. Each one translated into Earth's forgotten history. And it was speaking. You're sure it's the core? Elena Voss asked beside him. Yes, Dr. Malik Aaron said quietly. It hasn't activated since the Moonfall event 8000 years ago, the one we agreed never to speak of again. It doesn't care what we agreed. A low hum began resonating throughout the facility. Gravity shifted. Not enough to fall, just enough to notice. The core's surface split. A single line of glowing white ran down its center. From it stepped a projection, humanoid, ancient, golden-eyed and clad in armor that shimmered between matter and light. It spoke with no mouth, but the words struck like thunder. You have broken the accord. Elena turned slowly. You're not human. I am before human, the projection answered. I am the echo of what Earth once was, what it may become again. The lights in the room dimmed. Systems flickered, not because of failure, but because they were adjusting. Responding, recognizing. A hierarchy long dormant. President Hollis stepped forward. What is the accord? The entity tilted its head. The promise made by the last of the progenitors. When Terra burned itself in the wars of unmaking, when the stars trembled and silence fell, we sealed our strength, buried it, hid ourselves beneath stone and story and steel. We agreed, never again. And if someone found us, then the warning would echo. And if they didn't listen. The projection turned toward a holodisplay showing the Drahkon. Fleet paralyzed, confused, trying to fire weapons that no longer responded. They awaken what was meant to sleep. Now the Earth decides. On the Drahkon flagship, Sorvik stood as lights returned, but only red. Admiral. The sensor officer shrieked. We're surrounded. He looked to the view screen and saw them. They didn't come in war formations. They didn't match any known ship classes. Some were massive miles long. Others were no larger than a fighter. But they all bore one signature, progenitor-class technology. Ships. The Drahkon had only seen in crumbling records myths whispered in conquests past. Ships that shouldn't exist. They moved without engines, without heat, without sound, and they appeared as though summoned by thought. One passed through the Terra reborn, not damaging it, but studying it, slicing it apart with particle data and reconstructing it mid-flight. They're playing with us. Sorvik whispered. Then he received a transmission, not words, a memory. He saw a world of glass and blood, a throne of bones. He felt terror so vast it crushed his sense of self. He saw entire star systems blink out of existence, not with weapons, but with a gesture. Then he saw Earth, peaceful, quiet, blue. He screamed and dropped to his knees. His entire bridge crew followed, back on. Earth, the projection nodded. They've seen enough. What happens now? Holly asked. The projection looked upward, toward the stars. Its golden eyes burned. That depends on you? Elena stepped forward. No, not this time. We act on our terms. She looked at Holly. We've hidden long enough. Let the galaxy see. U.S., he paused, then nodded. Open the gates. On every continent, across every ocean floor, beneath every crater Earth's ancient, defenses stirred. The planet had never been sleeping. It had been watching, and now it would respond. The galaxy did not sleep that night. From the floating sky archives of the Velatari to the sunless citadels of the Churn, word spread like plasma across open vacuum. Not a rumor, not a whisper. A broadcast. Undefended, undeniable, unthinkable. Had awakened at the footage of the Drahkon fleet's annihilation flooded the starnets of 1,000 species. No audio was needed. No interpretation required. The images alone, ships folding into silence, dreadnoughts phasing through dimensions, time warp munitions eating holes in real time burn themselves into galactic memory. It was not warfare. It was judgment, and it was mercy on the Drahkon. Throne World Varak Prime. The Supreme Command gathered beneath the sapphire dome, a cathedral of war carved into a hollowed-out asteroid. Supreme Overlord Kari stood atop the central platform, his 6 arms outstretched, addressing the shrieking mob of generals and warlords below. They lied. He howled. The humans were a myth, weak, primitive. No empire, no fleets, no council seats. But the warnings, someone dared whisper, old superstitions. Kari roared, slamming his clawed hand into the holographic display of Earth. Fables told by dead species to justify cowardice. They destroyed our fleet without casualties, came another voice, timid, terrified. Kari turned, eyes gleaming with rage. Then we send more. Even the warlords paused. You would send more? Asked General Krog, voice low, dangerous. They disabled our command systems, subverted our ships, turned weapons into ash. We fired antimatter torpedoes, they answered with gravity edits. Do you even understand what that means? Kari snarled, but said nothing. Silence followed. Then, the chamber lights dimmed not from power failure, but interference. A symbol flickered in the center of the dome. Terran. Not DRHKON. Older. Everyone in the chamber recognized it. The sigil of the archivists of Kalos, the oldest known race still alive. A figure appeared in the center of the hall, cloaked in flowing light, eyes hidden beneath a lattice of crystal data nodes. The archivist spoke not in words, but in layered thoughts that bled into every mind at once. You were warned. The voice said, not as judgment, but with sorrow. Kari bared his teeth. This is our system. This is our war. This is your extinction, the archivist replied. Had you listened, you would be alive. Instead, you have forced open the tombs of gods who chose to forget they were divine. Back on Earth, President Hale stood at the summit of the World Unity Spire, watching the Terran fleet hang in high orbit like stars that had chosen to descend. Around him stood Alenovas. Dr. Malik Uran, Commander Juno Lee now returned from Mars, a decorated hero, and Kai Thorne, his face as unreadable as ever. Reports came in from all corners of space. The Vokari. Dominion had abandoned its conquest of the Vular moons. The Threx Syndicate, notorious for enslaving lesser species, had sent peace envoys. Even the Andari Ascendancy, who claimed neutrality for centuries, requested alliance. And from deep space came pings, hundreds of them. Hidden Terran beacons, long dormant, activating in response to Terra's return. Some responded with simple coordinates. Others wept audio logs in ancient human dialects. One merely played music soft piano, echoing across stars. Kai Thorne approached the glass with folded arms. They remember us. We don't, Hale replied softly. Maybe that's why we're still here. Meanwhile, aboard the dreadnought Prometheus, Admiral Sandra King stood before the Nexus Core, a living archive buried in the ship's core, connected to every major decision since the activation of Protocol Genesis. The Kalos have made contact. She reported. They've requested an emergency convocation. All major powers. Let them come, the Core responded, not as machine, but as voice. Female, human, ageless. And the Drahkon? Their homeworld is shielded. their emperor silenced, but not erased. Mercy then, not mercy, memory. Back aboard Varak Prime, panic rippled through the dome. One by one, warlords dropped to their knees, not in worship, but in resignation. The stars had changed. Corray, trembling, activated his last emergency failsafe, a beacon meant to alert the forgotten gods of the outer spiral. Nothing happened, except a response dot from beyond mapped space. A pulse came back, but it wasn't from any outer spiral force dot. It was from Earth. Elena Voss analyzed the signal first. Her brow furrowed. "This code isn't part of any known program," she whispered. "It's not even ours." Malik stepped forward, his face pale. "It's older than the progenitor age. It predates recorded time. This was embedded in the bones of the planet. Where is it coming from? Below?" They stared at him. "Way below." Earth itself was responding, and whatever lay beneath had waited longer than anyone had dared to imagine. The core pulsed. "The accord is broken." The vault stirs. President Hawley straightened. "Then open it." The ground beneath Antarctica shuddered. Cracks split the ice, not from pressure, but design. Lights long buried flickered in impossible geometries. And from the bottom of the world, something rose, not built, but grown. A black obelisk, miles wide, surfaced from the ice like the spine of a forgotten beast. Its surface was etched with symbols from every known language, human and alien and others, never before recorded. The sky dimmed. The world held its breath, and a voice spoke not into the air, not into minds, but into time itself. Cycle 3 begins. The darkness beyond Neptune fractured, not like glass, not in any way that made noise, but like the idea of stillness had been broken. One moment, the outer system was silent, ruled only by long-orbiting comets and forgotten probes. The next, 17 Drahkon warships crept into the light of Sol like shadows made real. No official announcement. No grand speech. Just motion steady, surgical, slow. On the bridge of the Terra Reborn, Admiral Sorvak stood with all 4 arms clasped behind his back. His obsidian armor shimmered with streaks of violet, reflecting the sensor panels before him. He didn't blink. Drahkon didn't blink. "Targets confirmed," said his tactical officer, a smaller, insectal creature from a conquered race programmed for obedience. 3 satellites, 5 orbital stations, minor debris fields, all transmitting in open analog. Sorvak exhaled through his vents. "No orbital weaponry?" "None. Their defense profile is laughable. Yet they knew we were coming," Sorvak murmured. He turned to the helmsman. "Deploy forward skirmishers to the Martian sector. Wipe it clean. I want the system's silence reasserted." Meanwhile, on the edge of Earth's moon, an ancient line of defense blinked into awareness. The Sentinel Array 4 circular constructs, hidden beneath lunar dust lifted from their craters like forgotten gods. Each was powered by singularity reactors not seen since the progenitor era. They didn't move. They simply watched. Commander Elena Voss watched too from deep within Lunar Command, in a bunker shielded by deception and layered quantum latticework. The facility didn't officially exist. Neither did the 6 others like it spread throughout the solar system. Elena stood surrounded by generals, scientists, and a single silent figure standing in the shadows. Kai Thorne, Earth Directorate's black operative. "Elena." President Hale's voice came in over secure quantum line, crisp and flat. "I want your analysis." She took a breath. 17 warships, including 1 Planet Killer class vessel. They're holding back. Probing, watching, waiting for us to show weakness. Elena nodded. "Or waiting for us to confirm our strength." Hale's voice tightened. "And if we do?" The galaxy will know we've lied for centuries. Across space, the Martian colony of New Dawn glowed red in the scanners of the incoming Drahkon skirmish ships. Civilian domes, wind turbines, shallow mines, nothing threatening. But Sorvak had no need of threats. He needed obedience. And destruction. Inspired it. Engage. The lead Drahkon pilot hissed. Energy lanced across the void, but instead of collapse and flame, they saw distortion. The beam struck air and then weren't there at all. "Sir," the pilot cried. "We hit ... nothing. They're gone." "No, we're not alone." Another voice growled from behind. The pilot turned and a shadow moved inside the cockpit. A human, wearing armor of impossible angles, matte black with a visor that reflected nothing, not even the stars. The skirmish. Ship erupted from within, tearing open like paper. One by one, the rest followed. Implosions. Gravity spikes. Some vanished completely, no explosion, just sudden silence. On Mars, Juno Lee and Derek Mason watched from the safety of a newly revealed bunker. Its walls lined with tech that glowed faintly blue and hummed with ancient code. "What the hell was that?" Derek breathed. Juno only whispered, "They never knew we were here." On Earth, Dr. Malik Arain observed it all from the Arclight Array, deep in the Andes. He tapped coordinates into a terminal that didn't exist on any map, then turned to the subdirector beside him. "The Sentinel program is active. Phase 2 is ready." The subdirector hesitated. "If we use them, we won't need to," Malik said. "Not yet." Then the stars screamed. Every advanced race in the galaxy, every council, empire, guild, and swarm received the same warning at once. Not from humans. Not from Drhkon. From the beacons. Beacons long thought lost, buried, or destroyed, hidden in forgotten corners of space. In languages no one had spoken in 10,000 years. They flared to life like supernova, and their message was clear. Terra has been breached. May the galaxy be spared what comes next. Panic rippled through galactic space. Old enemies called ceasefires mid-battle. Merchant guilds shut down trade routes. Even the archivists of Kalas, the most ancient beings, left alive, closed their libraries, and activated planetary shields not used since the progenitor collapse. And all of it happened before. Earth even fired a shot, but Admiral Sorvak didn't care. He viewed fear as a weakness and the fear spreading across the stars as confirmation of humanity's deception. If anything, it infuriated him. "Prepare the main cannon," Sorvak ordered. "Target the human moon. Let them watch their past crumble before their present." The Terra Reborn charged its weapon. Deep within its hull, antimatter spun in a gravitational forge designed to simulate black hole formation. Energy condensed into a bolt of oblivion. Sorvak smiled as it fired. The beam screamed toward Luna and struck nothing. Not because it missed, but because, at the last possible moment, Luna moved. The moon shifted. Not physically, but dimensionally. The beam passed through where it should have been. Then, before Sorvak could speak, his ship's own sensors began feeding him images that weren't real. Earth had activated Project Mirage. Now, 17 Earths appeared in orbit, each one pulsing with weapon signatures. Each one real, each one wrong. "This is impossible," Sorvak whispered. "No," came a voice through the COMMs. One he didn't recognize, one that spoke in an ancient Drahkon dialect. One, "No human should know. You just made your final mistake." Then space twisted around his fleet. The trap had closed. The wind screamed across the ice fields of Antarctica, but no storm touched the towering black obelisk that now rose from the depths of Earth's forgotten past. It stood in defiance of everything, of time, of decay, of understanding itself. Miles tall, wider than mountains, etched in languages both living and long dead. Its surface shimmered, not with reflection, but memory. It did not hum. It resonated. Above, the stars pulsed with distant anxiety. Below, the planet braced. The world watched in silence. From the World Unity Spire, President Hale stood at the command platform surrounded by the core of Earth's leadership. Elena Voss, Malik Aaron, Sandra King, Kai Thorne, and Juno Lee, now captain of the defense fleet orbiting Earth. In vessels once thought legend, but none of them spoke, because the obelisk, ancient and impossibly alive, had just spoken. Cycle 3 begins. Malik's voice cracked the silence. That's not progenitor. Code. Elena turned. What are you saying? It predates them. What predates the progenitors? The origin. The term hung in the air like smoke, something mythic. Whispers from Terran archives that were sealed even from my eye oversight. Theories scribbled by long-dead philosophers. Religious prophecy. Wrapped in mathematical absurdity. The progenitors didn't evolve, Malik said. They were awakened by something before them. And this is one of the remnants. The obelisk shifted, not physically but perceptually. It bent thought. Satellites couldn't record it clearly. AI couldn't process it. It was like trying to describe a four-dimensional shadow with three-dimensional words. Then it spoke again. Galaxy must remember. The error has repeated. Judgment must be balanced. Terra must decide. From orbit, Admiral Sandra King watched sensor data spiral into madness. The obelisk was projecting. Choice, not weapons. Not code, choice. And it was broadcasting it to the stars. Across the galaxy. Every major species received the signal. To the Valkyrie, it sounded like an invitation to trail. To the Andari, it echoed as a challenge. To the archivists of Kalas, it came as a final question. But to the Drahkon Supremacy, it was a mirror. Karay watched from the throne chamber. Eyes wide with horror as the black obelisk's message unfurled before him in Drahkon script older than his empire. You will be judged by your victims, not your victories. And then came the flash. From Earth's orbit, the obelisk fired no beam, but something shifted in space itself. A distortion rippled across known reality, curling the laws of physics like paper. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a keystone. A central node in a network of hidden architecture that spanned sectors of the galaxy, all long dormant, all waiting for activation. With the rise of the obelisk, each one blinked to life. Elena watched as hundreds of systems responded. Some thousands of light years away, Sandra King's face drained of color. This isn't defense. It's judgment infrastructure. Planetary verdict systems, Malik whispered. Set up to watch, evaluate, and if necessary correct. But correct what? Juno asked. Kai Thorne stepped forward, his voice calm. Reality itself. And Earth had been chosen to pull the trigger. The galaxy now faced two paths, one forged by violence, the other by humility. Back on the Drahkon throne world, rebellion erupted. Dozens of subjugated races, finally seeing the supremacy humbled, rose. Their chains dissolved as their conqueror systems failed, every AI command thread traced back to Drahkon's central command. And erased. But it was not Terra who struck. It was Terra's memory. The obelisk continued to pulse, evaluating. Judging. And then, across every active node, one phrase appeared in perfect synchrony. Judgment deferred. Mercy elected. Intervention logged. Elena's eyes welled with tears. We passed. Kai nodded. For now. The obelisk, having cast its verdict, began to sink back into the earth. The ice reformed. The winds calmed. and the skies brightened, as though the planet itself exhaled. But the message had been delivered, and the stars had heard it. Terra had been chosen not because of its weapons, or its warriors, or its blood. It had been chosen because it remembered not only what it was, but what it refused to become again. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. The Drahkon Supremacy fell not in fire, but in silence. Its fleets disabled, its rulers isolated, its citizens liberated by the weight of consequence. The Galactic Convocation formed, not in defiance of Terra, but under its guidance, and Earth did not claim dominion. It built bridges. The progenitor fleet returned to their slumber, not to hide, but to wait, to teach, to watch. And the obelisks remained hidden across the stars, glowing faintly, like lighthouses. Warnings. Beacons of memory. Juno. Lee was offered command of the Guardian Armada, Terra's new peacekeeping fleet. She declined. Instead, she became Earth's first ambassador to the stars. "I've seen what we can do," she told the council. "But more importantly, I've seen what we chose not to do." Kai Thorne disappeared weeks later. Some say he went to the vault. Others believe he became the next Watcher. No one knows for sure. But the last message found in his quarters read, "Peace is not the absence of power. It is the mastery of it." Malik Aaron was appointed head of the Kalos-Terran Historical Alliance. His research now focused on the Origin Age. He believed Terra wasn't just awakened. He believed it was placed by design, by something still watching. President Hawley stepped down quietly after the convocation was ratified. His final speech was simple. "We were warned. We listened late. But we listened. That's what saved us. That's what can save us all." And so the universe turned again, but differently. More carefully. With hope. And beneath Earth's crust, deeper than roots, deeper than stone, in the oldest vaults of all, a final system blinked green for the first time in 1,000,000 years. Its message was brief. Cycle 3 complete. Cycle 4 pending. Awaiting catalyst. Somewhere in the stars, something stirred. Watched. Smiled. And waited.